You're watching Make America Think Again, hosted by Sunni.
What's poppin', gang? This is the first official episode of Make America Think Again revamped. If you missed the first, I guess it's the second episode, but it's the first official episode. If you missed me popping up and explaining my new political views, you can go back and always watch that video. Oh, snap. I got other stuff in the background. You guys can always go back and watch that episode. If you are here tonight, you're in for a treat. I have a special guest. I met this person on, or this young man. I don't even know why I said that. I met this young man on TikTok, and we kind of started out, now I wouldn't say opposition, but I don't think he quite understood why I went as hard as I did. And most people don't, to be fair, until it's like little to too late, and you start to see the house of cards crumble. But he goes by the name of Slayer. I enjoy having conversations with him. I thought it would be amazing for people to see it from a different perspective, from Gen Z's perspective, because you normally hear it from mine. And my audience, you guys are, significantly older than me. And some of you are kind of stuck in your ways. So I want to help you get out of it. And without further ado, let's bring up Slayer. Thank you for coming to the podcast tonight.
Thank you for having me, Sunni. I'm very excited to talk to you. And like you stated, we started out as opposition. I was terrified for my life when the first time I ever met you. But now, look, we're thick as thieves. I call Sunni almost every day. I'm like, Sunni, I don't know how to think about this. Like, can you help me? Am I on the right track here?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited for you guys to learn a little bit more about me tonight.
What's up? Yes. I see you guys in the chat. Caleb is in the building. I feel like my mic is like super low. I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna get it together. Caleb is in the building. Yellow Bear Adventures. It's dark. Okay. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I haven't seen that name ever pop up on my stream, but you guys are in for a treat. I wanted to make this a very special show because the Republican Party, the GOP, the conservative movement, it's kind of all splintered, And I don't think people see the splintering happening. And if they do see it, to them, it's just like, well, that's just leftist propaganda. That's what I hear a lot of the time, is that things that I'm saying, things that I'm bringing up, it's just leftist propaganda. And I found it refreshing. I probably never told you this, but I found it really refreshing that you started out asking me, you started out scared.
I was terrified. For my life.
Why do you talk about Israel so much? But then I think gradually over time you did your own research, and things in real time started happening. And it was actually a sight to see. I'm glad that I was around for that because most people don't make that shift in public. It's a big thing to do.
Sunni, it was one of those things where I think for so long I was feeling that there was going to be ostracization from the actual party that I voted for. And I started out debating on TikTok alongside a lot of people that felt like they wanted to, make an impact and make a change, because for the last 4 years, it felt like we were just being oppressed by the left side of the political aisle. And, after the election, it became time for us to understand for us to understand how we're going to talk about politics and engage with politics with the platforms that we had. And I think one of the turning points that happened was I just saw you started going after Trump a little bit harder. And one of the things that I just like, why is she going after the man that we push so hard for people to vote for? Like, he does like the slightest thing that could be seen as, oh, well, this looks like you're trading sides to the left side of the political aisle. And you get labeled a Democrat. Why would she put herself through those crosshairs? And it wasn't until you said this famous quote, and I will never forget it. You don't criticize the person you didn't vote for heavily. You criticize the person you did vote for heavily. And when you said that, it was like a light switch just flipped in my brain. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Like, if Kamala won, I wouldn't care what she does, because I like the expectations, like the bar is basically in hell to me. Like, I would have no expectation. But it became one of those things where it was certain topics that immediately, when it comes especially to geopolitics, that I was like, why is it that if I give you a critique or an opposition to it, that I'm not even aligning myself with either side, that you automatically think because it is not popular narrative on the right that I'm voicing support for something that the left clearly decides to champion.
Yeah. And what's crazier is this subject that we're talking about, because we're talking about Israel. The name of this live is MAGA's blind spot, because I do think that that's exactly what it is. I don't think they have the foresight to view their own hypocrisies, their own contradictions the way they do the left. And that's kind of been my specialty. And that's really why people don't like me on the right, because they want me to spend significant time criticizing my opposition. Well, if Joe Biden were in office again, or Kamala were in office again, guess what I would be doing? I would be criticizing the left. But they're
Yep.
not in office. And we can't pretend anymore. I used to be proud to be a part of the right conservative movement. It was awesome because people over here stood for truth. But for some reason, that's just completely shifted. Like it's been a drastic change. I just want you guys to understand that. I don't get on TikTok or get on my YouTube to talk about the things I talk about because I want attention. There has been a drastic change in a very short amount of time, and it is still continuing. We send this country billions of dollars. Okay? I'm going to pull up sources that they can't refute. That's another way you beat them at their own game. I'm going to pull this up, and I want you guys to see how much money year to date we've spent on Israel. This is from, not year to date, this is from 2024. And got a Times of Israel article pulled up. Hold on. Hopefully it doesn't make you pay for a subscription because that's gay. Why did they do
and,
that?
and remember, it's the left's, not the left, sorry, the right's favorite site is the Times of Israel. They'll use that oftentimes whenever they're trying to use sources to talk about how the Palestinian people are causing chaos in the region. So
Right.
for anybody on the right, we're using one of your sources, by the way. So this is
This
not
is
propaganda or fake news or anything
exactly,
of that.
exactly. So this is kind of where I started out, right? I started here. I started right after October 7th, and I wanted to understand why this was happening. When I looked into how much money we send not only Ukraine, but Israel, I thought, well, we're upset when we send this money to Ukraine, which I agree with because it's not our business. Why are we involved in that? But then you completely change your tune when it comes to this country, right? This was really my big shift when I was reading things like this. Now, you voted for Trump, obviously. You're a Gen Zer. There's reasons you voted for him, but I want to, because I know the reasons you voted for him. I want to
Yes.
know this shift. This was a shift for me. This is in 1 year, by the way. 17.9 billion in military aid to this country. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. That So for me, the decision came down when voting for Trump, because you gotta. Uh, there's a lot of identity politics that are put in place, especially for Black people. You know, it's one of the only demographics that votes 90% for one party. No other racial demographic does that. So growing
Yeah.
up, I was just always taught, Democrat is the way to go. Vote blue, no matter who. And it wasn't until after college, which I ended my college career during C-19. And
Mm.
so after that, that's when like the shift happened. I remember quite vividly, I was in a hotel room quarantined away from my family because my family was kind of in the high risk category. We didn't have a lot of information at the time. So we didn't know if they would survive if I was around them. And I remember I had a lot of friends on the conservative aisle that was saying, like, don't do this parameter this way, don't do this sort of quarantine that way. And I remember trying to like look for information that they were sending me, and I kid you not, Suni, in real time, that information was taken offline. There's a great doctor that studied virology at UCLA. His name is Dr. George Fareed, great man. And he was advocating for the fact that he was being taken off and censored on Twitter. He was being called every sort of pejorative under the book, a science denier, everything. But I'm like, this dude literally studied virology at UCLA. So how can he be a science denier at the end of the day? None of this is truly making sense to me. And so for me, I was like, why are they censoring this information that could be saving lives right now? It's something that not a lot of people know about. And people are just curious to get a different perspective. It's just like anything else you might do. You might go and get 3 different opinions from a doctor before you make a life-changing medical decision. So why not get different perspectives that may be going against what the mainstream narrative was? And I just remember heavily how they were criticizing Trump about that. And I really thought the dude was everything underneath the book, from like what they were telling me as a Democrat of like, he's mustache man, he's coming to like put black people on boats, like to just everything in between. And I think the thing that enticed me and appealed me to Donald Trump, and at the time the MAGA base, was the fact that it was a culmination of everybody coming together and just wanting America to be what the Constitution said, right? Like, I want government to just leave me the hell alone. I want to make my own independent choices. I want to feel like I'm in control of my life. I don't want government to feel like it's in control of my life. And so I was so excited, and that's why I campaigned heavily for Trump the last like 7-8 months and built sort of my following from that on TikTok, to now getting into office and just seeing like the people that I was alongside debating with become so tribal in nature that they're okay with doing the same things that the left did and abandoning constitutional principles, which keeps us all aligned and all together. I have my own views as a Christian. I'm very headstrong in that, we talk offline all the time about Christian values. But I do think the Constitution is the greatest piece of historical documentation, or any sort of like binding contractual agreement between a citizenry in any sort of the world's history. And a complete abandonment of that would be complete and utter chaos and decimation of the United States as we know it. It protects me, it protects you, it protects the next guy next to us. And the fact that this movement, which I thought, was America first, we're putting every sort of national principle beyond belief. Trump is saying, I'm so against war, like I just don't want people to die, right? That was his great quote. I'm not for either side. To now seeing this and having MAGA champion, oh well, it's okay, they're our ally, we should just keep giving them money, to not even using logical like thinking, like, okay, we're giving this side money, but we're also providing the Palestinians with aid to the destruction that we're causing from this $17.9 billion. Like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sunni, but I feel like I'm just spinning in circles trying to understand the logic behind giving aid, causing the destruction, and then supporting the people that we're decimating.
Well, that's the contradiction. That's why this report is up here, because like you said a very important thing. You voted for America first. And there has been a conflation within MAGA to think that putting Israel as its priority is making America. What the freak is happening? Sorry. The audio in the background just started. Okay, my bad. What is that noise? Anyways.
I thought we were about to have a party. It sounded like the club. I was like, yes, I did something right.
People just kind of abandon what they stood for, because $17.9 billion leaving this country. Now, I know what people are going to say. Sunni, it is a fund set aside that multiple countries can dip into. Right. So that means that our tax-paying dollars are going to them. Yeah, but they're reinvesting it. And where does that come back to all of us? Well, because they're buying from us. Yeah, but they're using our tax dollars to buy from us. Like, where does that make sense? How is this America first?
It's literally a constant loop. It's like us chasing the tail. And I'm just like, why are you guys not seeing what I'm seeing? I'm, and that's what you help bring to light to me, is this cognitive dissonance that's just there because, well, it's something that we've been doing this whole time. It's something that Israel, aka our greatest ally, has. And, for a while, I was scared to talk about Israel because I'm like, it'll cause alienation. There's a lot of influence and lobbying behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, the principle of it is that, and I think the greatest fear is the alienation part. But the thing that drew me to the right was the fact that, like, you can be an individual. We're not doing like the whole collective tribal games. And if we continue down the same road, what's the difference between the right and the left?
What is the difference? What is the difference? I'm looking at the CFR. I'm going to pull this up. And it says it right here at the top. Israel has been a top recipient of U.S. arms sales, right? It's at a whopping $53 billion. And this is from the years 1950 to 2022. And it also says not adjusted for inflation. If you go up to the top here, this is all public knowledge. You guys can look this up. This is what I did, and I thought, what is happening? So, based on their economy, right, since 1946 to 2024, we've given them $80 billion. $80 billion. And then you go over here to military. Since 1946, this is before Israel was even established as a country or a state or a sovereign state. 2 years prior, we sent them $228 billion. That is year to date. And when we look at our relationship with this country, it's been nothing but chaos and confusion. It's like you said, we're in this like rat race where some of us hop off and we're looking at the rest of them like, do you realize you're going in a circle? Like, we could get off the hamster wheel at any point now.
Right. And the thing that is crazy to me the most is the fact that they'll carry this same sentiment for the same sentiment can be carried for, Ukraine versus Russia, right?
Right.
But then the moment we talk about Israel and Palestine, it's like, oh, well, they give it back to us. And like you said, these are our tax dollars. That's your tax dollars in Ukraine as well. How do you guys not put two and two together? Do you think that we're just like getting the money from the sky, or like we're just growing a few extra trees in the back of the White House yard and then just, printing it that way? Like, I think, to me, everybody carries that anti-war sentiment, but it's like, oh, well, they've supported us for so long. They were here to help invade Afghanistan with us. They were here to help with us after 9/11.
Right.
Well, who were the ones that gave us the intelligence to begin with to go to these places where we ended up finding out there was no boom booms?
No boom booms, no weapons of mass destruction. They didn't find them. What I heard as a kid is we went over there for oil. And there was really no war. And even more, I'm like, okay, so y'all didn't go over there with good intentions. You went over there because you wanted to take over this region. And if you did that, you were offered oil. That seems like a good, not even a good, but that just seems like a logical explanation as to what actually happened over there. But that's something that I personally don't think we'll ever get the truth on.
But to me, Sunni, to me, that's the scary part, because you can see we're doing it all over again right now with Iran, right? Yesterday I sent you the article, or I sent you that little post that, for a while now, you had your great champions like Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham. Rick Scott is now on full board with this. Okay, we have got to do something about Iran. This report comes out yesterday from my gosh, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's one of the intelligence agencies, and they're basically talking about the fact that Iran is stockpiling on
uranium.
Uranium. Yep.
Yes.
And we've had 18 of our own national intelligence agencies, right? Count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 18, right? Tell us, no, there is nothing happening over in Iran. this one agency seemingly pops up yesterday, tells us that there's nothing being there's more that's being told, not talked about. There's more sorry, I'm like butchering my words right now. There's more uranium that's being stockpiled. And then now we're getting word from insiders saying that the U.S. is rescinding deals in Iran as we speak. And the last time when we rescinded deals to a certain country, the next thing that leads up to it is war.
Yeah, because you incentivize them, and then you take that incentive away, based on reports that have already been out there. Like you said, this has been a recurring thing within our intelligence community for a long time. The reason they don't act on it is because Iran doesn't have the capability to actually build it. We know this. So if they're collecting, fine, let them collect. But the second you try to build something, I could potentially be on board for war because they don't like us. And we've agitated that relationship. So I think if given the chance that they would. But when we can see that they're not and they don't have the capabilities, like what's the point in going over there and doing what we're doing? And that's the golden question. Is this truly America first? I personally, I don't find this to be America first. Here's another question. Why do we give this kind of support to this country specifically with no questions asked?
That's the question that I want to know, right? I have my own theories, right?
Yeah.
But I also want to know, why are people so scared here? And I would be a fool not to cite the fact that the conservative base is heavily made up with ties to theology, right? Like
Yes.
we definitely have Christians there,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like judge anybody's walk with Christ or anybody's faith as a fellow Christian, but the way people misinterpret the relationship of Israel in the Bible
It's
to
crazy.
this land that we have to protect, and it's like, no, God told us that we have to protect it. I'm like, you might want to go read your Bible.
For real. And let's just say the Bible did call for us to do that. Is it talking about this? I remember I talked about this months ago and people called me crazy. The State Department used AI to revoke visas of foreign students. There's an entire article. I did a video on this. They're going to be reviewing. Well, they already did this. This is, if you guys are paying attention, this will be our next subject. Mahmoud Khalil, the young woman who wrote the opinion piece for her college campus that wasn't even a part of Hamas, and I think two other one of them was a Harvard doctor. He had no ties to anything, and I can't remember the other dude, but there are four really specific people that were targeted by the State Department using AI to deport people here on student visas. And it's right here. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is launching an AI-fueled catch and revoke effort to cancel the visas of foreign nationals who appear, okay? I want you guys to really pay attention to this word. Appear. I'm going to make it bigger so nobody can say, I didn't see it, Sunni. It's right there. Who appear to support Hamas or other designated terror groups. Senior state officials they told us to Axios. The effort, which includes AI-assisted reviews of tens of thousands student visa holders' social media accounts, marks a dramatic escalation in the U.S. government's policing of foreign nationals' conduct and speech. Now, here's the question I have for all of you, and I want you to answer this as well. Why are you okay with the State Department using the exact same type of AI and censorship that Facebook used on you, that Twitter used on you before it went to X, that YouTube uses on us? Because you know what it is? It's AI hearing what we're saying, doesn't have any context, but if you say jibby jab, and you still can't say that on YouTube, misinformation. Why? There's not an actual person looking at your shit. It's AI. And you feel comfortable, excuse me, I said I wasn't going to curse anymore on this show.
It's hard. It's hard. Yep.
But now you feel comfortable allowing them to use the same vehicle to go after people who are here on student visas, to not just, you're in trouble, you can't do this, but to deport them. I personally don't feel comfortable with allowing AI to do that because, as you can see, Mahmoud Khalil, the Turk, I can't remember her first name. She's got a weird first name, but her last name is Turkish.
I know who you're talking about. The woman that was like kind of abducted off of the street by
Yeah,
that
that
unmarked
video is
cart. Yeah, that was
crazy.
insane. And
That
anybody that
video is
was
crazy.
comfortable with that, I'm like, it's given some of that ties to the mustache man in that little country. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. What did you? Because this is something I talked about early on, and you kind of were just like, "That's crazy." Okay, but what did you think when you saw this?
So when I saw the AI thing, I immediately thought, well, here's the thing. My whole AI like skepticism and almost like where are we going with this started when I found out that half of one of the Avengers movies, I think it was Endgame, was shot with AI. I was like, yo, if they can make this look like this with AI, then just imagine what's going to start happening with the deep fakes, right? We started to see this play out with some of these ransom notices. All it takes is 10 seconds. Now I don't pick up the phone for anybody. Like if you don't get the number saved, if it's important, leave a voicemail. But Suni, when it came down to AI and the way that the State Department just misled people, it's one of the reasons why now I go so hard with this big beautiful bill. And side note, y'all, like Suni is my sister. I talk to her all the time. One thing she hates is when I bring up either tofu or economics. And I'm gonna like slightly talk about economics for like 2 seconds, right? The big beautiful bill, one of the reasons I voted for Trump too is because it increased wages, right? When we got those tax cut incentivizations. Moving away from that because the continuation of the tax provisions were set to expire this year. So if they don't pass this big beautiful bill, like all of our taxes would raise. So when they're promising these tax cuts, and they also promise, another reason why I like the Republican Party's platform was because they said that they were going to cut the amount of text in a bill. We weren't doing these 1,000-page bills. Well, the big beautiful bill is almost 1,186 pages, I think, to be exact. In there, it provides protections for the next 10 years for AI, right? Like it is by far for somebody that advocates so much for less government and the party that advocates for less government, we're putting protections on just like free willy-nilly AI, right? By far, in one of the scariest things for every American should be the fact that we have AI so well. And I think most of the efficacy, if you look at most studies, will show you that AI, I think, is at somewhere between like 82% to like 89% proficient, right? With very slight margins of errors. Within the next decade, it should be at 100%. So if the State Department got caught now with AI, right, we could clearly tell it was a deep fake video. What's going to happen in 10 years? Like I just said, right? It matches the timeline in 10 years when we can't even tell.
That's my concern. I was looking at there was some video, I can't remember where I shared it, but there's a video of influencers if a apocalyptic situation were to happen, and it's all fake. None of it is real, but you would think that you're watching a real video being put up. Now, for people my age, your age, and our age group, we got to grow up with technology. I got to see the evolution of technology go from people having a big old clunky desktop computer to us all walking around with computers in our hands.
Yep.
It's been very drastic. And my father-in-law, who's in his 50s, late 50s, he even gets duped. There's some times where he sends us videos where we're like, this is obviously fake, or information, this is fake. It's not real. So I think we should be very concerned as citizens with the State Department and what it's doing. I think this is kind of an economic topic, but we just accepted $800 billion foreign investments in our AI infrastructure, and the majority of that went to AI infrastructure. So you got to question what the fuck is happening.
Yep.
Like,
And not
what
to
is
mention,
happening?
Wait, Sunni, not to mention how heavily the right went after trying to make sure I stay within YouTube guidelines, but
Yeah.
the C19 jibby jabs, right?
Yeah.
Part of that AI infrastructure is to use AI to develop jibby jabs, right?
Yep.
That will somehow eradicate every disease.
Larry
If y'all
Ellison.
didn't trust man making it, why are y'all trusting AI to make it?
Exactly. This
Like, you can't make this up.
this is MAGA's blind spot. I'm telling you. How is it that I've been supporting Trump since 2015? You have just come around. It's been 7, 8 months for you. You had a rapid change,
Oh, I
quicker than
was
I had
full
it.
blown MAGA. I was like ultra supreme leader type MAGA. Yeah.
How is it that we can identify all these red flags, contradictions, hypocrisies, and just downright sinister plans on the left, but we can't see it on the right? I've continued to play this video so y'all can see how this young lady was approached by a dude in a hood. She doesn't know who this is. Might look at him.
He and the way he approached her too, like he was wearing a mask. He just said, "Hey," like it was like some sort of coffee stroll. Then you see the car like circle in, back forth, like back, it backs in, and then I think the van approaches. It was by far the scariest thing I've ever seen. I thought I was watching. I thought I was watching like a movie, like the part in the movie where like they abduct somebody for ransom.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. When I found that this was our own government, I was like, "Oh, we are doomed."
It's wild. It's wild. And this one, this is what really took the cake for me. Immigration is in my personal opinion, when it comes to this angle, immigration, constitutional rights, what rights foreign nationals do or don't have, what people on student visas, what rights they do and don't have as far as constitutionally. It's scary how ill-informed a lot of MAGA is on this subject. I talked about this quite extensively, probably for weeks, until I finally just put it to bed, because I realized people weren't going to be honest about what was happening. Now,
Oh.
this article was in 2025 of April, and it was the evidence that the Trump administration used against Mahmoud Khalil. And it focused heavily on anti-Semitic beliefs. Now, I have the actual DHS memo here, and we'll reference it later, but I want you to look at this article. Axios is an amazing source for unbiased news, especially if you want balanced news. And they focus a lot on a geopolitical realm. But according to this memo, Mahmoud Khalil is not alleged of any criminal conduct, and he was never charged with any crime. He is still detained, as far as I know, in Maryland to this day, because he has the opportunity to appeal what the U.S. government has, or the State Department will say, is doing to him. Now, I thought for certain, Slayer, I said, you know what? This is going to be it. People are going to say, all right, okay, enough. You don't even have any evidence against him, and it's listed right here. Let's go over to the memo. You have no evidence against him. Okay, these are the two statutes, the two sections that were used. They openly admit the guy who was blacked out here, because there's two people involved in this memo. The young man who's blacked out, he was found guilty of illegal protests because he harassed somebody, and I think he assaulted someone. Okay, and his reason for being deported is listed right here. It is what it is. Right underneath it, you do something illegal, you go bye-bye. Right?
You know what I thought was gonna be the you're showing it right there, right? Even if somebody didn't read this document, the next day, Carolyn Levitt gets up in the press secretary room at the podium. I kid you not, you had 3 different interviewers ask her, "Hey, do you have that evidence of the flyer that he was passing out that was in support?" Can you say the T word, or do I have to call it the T group?
Yeah, go ahead.
in support of a terrorist group, Hamas, right? She said this. There's a damning piece of evidence, but it's so disgusting that she doesn't want to show it on or disgrace the press secretary room. That's the verbiage she used. And that she would give it to anybody that wanted to inquire about it.
Yes.
Suni, it's been 2 months,
We still
almost
haven't
two
seen it.
months, and we still not have seen this damning piece of evidence.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up that video so people can see how she answered this. This is crazy. I can't find it anywhere. You could find everything
I
on
think it
X.
was, you can definitely find it on X. I was gonna say it's on Forbes Business, but sometimes they don't even highlight those clips. But if you find it, you have got to show this because it's hysterical. It's like, okay, we'll show it because if you can show this, my whole tune would change, right?
Right.
You definitely cannot support a terrorist group and radicalize people to commit actions against the United States. I am in full support of whatever you do from there. But you
Yep.
don't have that.
It it makes me think of J6. That's another thing, by the way, because you're going to be getting on YouTube a lot more, that
Mhm.
you have to be very careful about speaking about. But when there was no evidence, okay, that these people did anything, and the FBI came in and raided a lot of people, had photos of them, took their phones. For some people, just got their shit back. You guys had a problem with the U.S. government violating people's rights. Mahmoud Khalil's rights, I'm just going to say it, they were violated in a very heinous, disgusting way. This was an egregious thing that happened under the Trump administration. And I think it won't ever be viewed as egregious because of how deeply indoctrinated and brainwashed the right is when it comes to terrorism over in the Middle East. And that, I see Tumblr, this is Bush Cheney era
I was just gonna
ignorance of
I was
civil
just gonna
liberties for
talk about that.
Republicans, the Patriot Act, and
Mhm.
how we've never even gotten rid of it. It's just expanded.
It's just there. Yeah, everybody knows about it. We all are upset about it. Nobody's questioned it. Oh, well, life continues.
It's it's really sad. It made me sad because, like I said, I thought this was going to be it. When people find out that they don't have any evidence, this is going to be it. A lot of people are going to say, "Okay, enough is enough."
Yeah.
But then that came and went.
And I don't want to I don't want to like add in any sort of conjecture or try to understand the mentality of why somebody might possibly come to the rationale why they think that this is okay.
Hmm.
But like Tumblr said, this is Bush Cheney level ignorance at post 9/11. It's been propagandized by us. I remember like, and when Sunni and I did a show on TikTok where we had a Muslim woman come
Oh
up
yeah,
and the things that they told us like they went through, like even like to the point like where some like her brother went through puberty before like a lot of kids in the grade, he would have to shave his face because he didn't want people to know that he looked or resembled somebody that did the actions of 9/11. And as Americans, like, we should, I'm not going to say would we, I don't like to do the whole collective, but me
hmm,
personally, I've had to like look at my kind of like bias and like really sit down and say, I was wrong for like how I looked at like the Muslim community for decades. Like, I'd be, even as a liberal, like I was so fearful of them to like now I've taken a step back. These are like the kindest people I think I've ever met in my life. Every single person. Now, I shouldn't say like every, but
yeah,
maybe one or two might have stuck out the bunch, but almost every single one of them has been the nicest person you will ever meet.
yeah. It's like what we kind of talk about with between MAGA and like sensible Trump voters.
Yeah.
They the sensible people, we are oftentimes silent, kind of just existing, and we're looking at both extremes act beyond ridiculous. I think people will lend their voice to it, but that's as far as they go. They're not radical about disrupting narrative building. I'm a radical about that because that is an easy way to deceive somebody. When you have to build a narrative around the subject and you can't just discuss it, by bringing up pieces of evidence. This is not anything that I formulated. It's not my bias. We're reading it right here. They didn't have anything against him criminally. When you can't discuss with people like that anymore and they don't relate to that, we're in a bad spot. A real bad spot. I wish, and I hope we're not going to be on here much longer. I want to do this on TikTok, and I'm just going to put MAGA's blind spot, Israel, billions, and bans, because I do really want to engage with people to understand, why are you turning the blinders onto this? Why is everything this guy does, and I'm talking about Trump, everything he does is celebrated? And I'm not saying that you can't celebrate or be happy that he's done something amazing, because there's been times where I put up videos, but every single thing, you have an excuse, a rhyme, a reason approach. I don't know if you're in the comment section, but he's another one of those people. Like, you try to explain the unexplainable with the mental gymnastics. And he leads with this. You know, I've got a Jewish son that celebrates Hanukkah. What? Like, what happened to MAGA? I don't recognize you.
Oh my gosh.
That's the equivalent to, you know, I got black friends. Yeah, I got one or two black friends.
I got one or two black friends. That, you know, I'm not racist. I can't be anti-Semitic. My son's Jewish. He celebrates Hanukkah.
Oh,
Like,
man.
I agree with you. And it's one of those things where it's not even just when it comes to geopolitics, right? Mm-hmm. You also see this same thing. Again, sorry if this is going to make you start to itch. Maybe take some Benadryl after this show. But with economics, me and Tumblr, I will sit and debate with people that don't even understand what they're arguing for in some of these policies is damn near communism. Yeah. I know you don't believe this. You were arguing against Harris because she was trying to do these same communistic things. But because Trump is doing it, now you find a way to pretzel your way out? The disconnect, for me, I think that I was very happy, like, when I came out of this whole, like, MAGA, everything Trump does is great and celebrated, to, like, being very serious about it now, because I just remember the last 4 years, it was hell. Like, it was 100% just hell from the left, and it was, like, an insane cultist mentality to a lot of things. And so coming over to the right, they're like, we're going to fix all of that. We're going to give you all your constitutional liberties back. We're definitely for smaller government. We will not impede on the free market. We will not impede on speech. You know, America is going to be prioritized. We're going to stop the illegal immigration. We're going to stop eroding everybody's values. We're going to look at everybody as an American. Mm-hmm. And we're going to value your civil liberties. To standing here now with the people next to me, and they're just like, well, you know, Trump kind of has a point to this, right? Like, we should definitely defund this because they are protesting.
That's another thing.
We didn't even cover that one yet.
Yeah, why are so many people on the right okay with defunding universities? Matter of fact, here is something I have for conservatives and libertarian Republican voters. Why are you okay with the Fed giving that much money to universities, which brings control? Because now they're like, clink, clink. You can't bring any students in. You can't do this. You can't do that. And if you want to continue to function, then you need to do what we say. And everybody's just on board. Let me not say everybody, but I'll say, I think it's a majority of people that I come in contact with. Now, this is on social media. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily know that there are stipulations and requirements for these universities to remain open. And they're solely rooted in social racial justice. This would be no different than Biden saying, if you allow MAGA supporters to come protest outwardly, or conservatives to have their protests outwardly, it's deemed anti-American because you guys are threats to democracy and we're taking your funding. You know you would have a problem with that.
100%.
And rightfully so.
100%. And there's a lot of there's a lot of double speaking sometimes within in the base, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, oh, we're definitely for defunding public institutions because they shouldn't be receiving it in the first place, especially the Ivy League. But then they'll say, well, they just need to stop the protests. Like these same people will say they just need to stop the protests, and I'm fine with giving them the funds back. I can't do the either yes or no. Like you need to pick one. I
Right.
don't I can't operate my life like that.
From your perspective, an older Gen Zer that supported Democrat policies, you then shifted over here. I know for certain you probably have like maybe more red flags stick out to you than it would me because I'm kind of laser focused. So from your perspective, would you say that MAGA is just as extreme and hypocritical as the left? And I say the left to be very strategic.
Well, this is the thing. I think it's getting there because, and we've had this discussion before,
Mm-hmm.
because of like populism, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
have a populist movement and you bring in your classical liberals, no hate to you tumblers, the libertarians, a lot of people with like left leaning social ideology, and I love the
Yeah.
fact that we all still agree economically, and we have like cutoffs for certain things like the kids and protection. But
Yeah.
when all this like starts to happen and you get the same effects as multiculturalism,
Mm-hmm.
eventually somebody has to rise up, somebody has to take power, and that agenda has to be pushed, right?
Right.
You've got historically like the side of the I'm just so used to TikTok language, so pardon me, everybody. I don't mean to sound like a 3-year-old. I just don't know what I can and can't say on YouTube. I've been trained by this Chinese app to say certain things. But the little hat people that historically voted majority Democrat to this year, we
Mm-hmm.
saw a rise in them voting for the Republican Party. There's
Right.
a heavy influence on that. We didn't even cover, Sunni, how 97% of the Senate is funded by APAC.
That's true.
And we've also seen the social aspects of like the allocation of certain alternative lifestyles
Mm-hmm.
into the MAGA base, to this conflation of like, okay, well, all MAGA is conservative. And so now you've got
Right.
some conservatives that believe, okay, well, conservative is MAGA. And it's like, no, you aren't conserving anything. You
Right.
brought in new age social policies. You
Right.
brought in new age and new generations of thinking to erode conservatism. So, like, what are you conserving?
Right.
And I
What are
think
you
that's where
conserving?
the disconnect comes in place. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Trump, I think, is super smart in his strategic approach of, his daughter's now the RNC chair. So they're
Yes.
gonna, even when he leaves office, he's still gonna have a major impact on how we go about our election cycles. Like a Trump cosign is going to be like the OG, like Drake cosign for the music industry. For any of my young Gen Z people, getting a Drake cosign was like the best thing that you can get. So, like in politics now, you get that Trump cosign, that endorsement is like worth gold, right? You saw like what happened with Ron DeSantis. He only won by a few points in Florida or he was lower in the polls until Trump decided to endorse him last minute. Trump decided to endorse Lindsey Graham, which don't even want to talk about that. But he was about to be primaried as well. And then Trump came through and Lindsey Graham is back in there. And now he's back to his old neocon ways. So
Warmonger ways. Yeah.
I think MAGA is eroding conservative principles only because it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen with ideas that are not closely tied to conservatism. And it's
Yeah.
just like we all have one little thing that made us so mad at the left that now, because all of us are in here and a majority of us are somewhere center right, that we all think, okay, well, let's be like a little bit center so that way we can keep this movement going. But it's like, no, all of y'all don't want to talk about this because it's just Trump. Like, there is no core principles to your
Mm-hmm.
movement. It's just Trump is MAGA. That's it.
That's true. They have because he's a very polarizing figure. Trump is. They have made a single person the face and I will say the face, because I'll be fair. I think Trump is just a precursor to the neocons. I don't think Democrats will win for the next few election cycles. I think they're going to be increasingly becoming more pro-war, because if you're already starting to see them, we referenced it earlier in the conversation, articles of Iran gaining nuclear capabilities, they're starting to drop. That's literal propaganda to a certain extent, because we gave the context as to why it's not even really a realistic threat, because they don't have the means of creating these boom booms, these WMDs, I'm sorry. They don't. Tulsi Gabbard, she had a hit piece out on her. Mark Levin was going nuts on her. And Nimrata going crazy.
Nimrata, yep.
I got to show y'all the picture of this lady kissing a freaking missile. Like,
oh my gosh.
come on.
Don't forget, who was it? It was Christy Knowles, right? She just recently kissed the wall of Israel, right?
Yeah, she did.
Rick Scott, all of his videos now are in his office in the United States Senate building with a big flag of Israel, not America, Israel.
Yes. Oh, before I forget, I want to play this video for you guys. This is is it Caroline Levitt?
Yep, Caroline Levitt. Yep.
Okay, check this out. Uh-oh. I don't think I shared the audio. Nope, I didn't. Hold up, y'all. I haven't done YouTube like this in a minute. I'm like rusty.
I like it. This has been such a smooth flowing show. It's definitely different than like what we usually do on TikTok.
It's way different.
It's way different. I was not prepared, but I've been enjoying this.
Can you guys hear that?
It's a little low for me, so I'm not sure if it's low for them.
Okay. Let me see. Why is it so low for y'all? Let's stop sharing it really quick. Pull it back up. Make sure I share the audio. Okay.
Acknowledge or highlight it even. Because these colleges and these protests have again put out Hamas propaganda. The flyers that have been distributed call for violence. The flyers that have been distributed have the logo of an organization that has held Americans hostage, that murdered innocent babies, that murdered men, women, and children. They are a designated foreign terrorist organization, and we are not going to tolerate non-citizens, foreigners who come here on a visa, engaging in such behavior, siding with terrorists. At the core.
Lady, where's the evidence?
If you go to that video, and there's a full one linked to it, so go watch that short on YouTube, click the full video, and you will watch it. She does not come back and bring that evidence. She's like, I just don't want to disgrace this press room. I don't want to do this to you guys' eyes. Just show us the evidence.
Show us the evidence.
This is all you have to do.
For real. It wouldn't be that hard. And then here's Nikki Haley. Look at her. Finish them. Finish them?
Oh, I'm going to be sick. America loves Israel. I just noticed that. Imagine if that's what you saw. Like that. I don't think you and I are crazy. And I always have to like remind that whenever I like just like hit a wall where I don't know what else to say. And I'm just like, I know we're not crazy. I know I'm not crazy.
We're not. This is, and look, you want to see something even more disgusting?
I'm nervous. No way.
$1.5 million. Now, people are going to say, well, what about Act Blue? AIPAC funds both sides of the political spectrum. And if Act Blue was up to no good, then you need to look into this organization. I've looked into them. But you know what? I know it's far too early to come out and say what I want to say about AIPAC. I'm not trying to be Nick Fuentes right now. Right now, he's got it. What we can do is show, hey, this is how much money this woman got. What does she have to do in return? Well, we know what she's got to do in return. You got to kiss missiles and sign your. Why would you sign your signature on a missile that is going to go unalive? I mean, kill. I'm going to say murder people.
Yeah. Like it's just falling from the sky. You think it's coming from Israel, but no, like we America loves Israel. We're gonna even write it on the missile itself, and then us Americans are gonna be shocked. And I'm not justifying this whatsoever. I hope that this doesn't get clipped, and I just know that if it does, they're gonna be like, oh, this imposter right here. He's calling for this for America. That comes down, and then you guys are shocked when these radical movements of Islam just pop up out of nowhere.
Yep.
I'm not saying they're justified, but put yourself in the mind of somebody that is a radicalized jihadist and look at what would happen. The evidence is right there. Your own people from America are going over here and co-signing this on behalf of you, me, and every other everyday American that may not, and certainly I would think, agree with the actions that are being taken by a foreign nation.
To answer your question, Tumblr, he absolutely did do this. Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, in America, we don't kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences. And he's also doing exactly what Nikki Haley was doing, signing missiles. Look at these people. Like, they have no... Can you imagine, Slayer, terrorists signing missiles to send over to America? How that would be spread like wildfire of terrorism?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. We got to do better.
We got to put our thinking caps on.
For real. Because it's getting bad out here. I can't make excuses for y'all anymore. And I'm not going to. I'm going to call a spade, continue what I've been doing, because the right and the left have lost the plot. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what to tell you besides open your mind and open your eyes. Like somebody needs to force your eyelids open. We just going to force them open. Okay? You can't close your eyes no more. You see how I'm trying to close them? They don't close, y'all. We need to force them open and say, look. Look at the truth. It's right here in front of your face.
I had to hit it for you one time because if you guys don't get the visualization from Sunni's quite literal expression of like, just open these eyes a little bit more. I don't think there's anything else that we can say that would get it through their heads. No. I'm glad that we can keep drilling this into people's heads, because if let's be honest, MAGA, right? Everybody calls y'all a cult. One time is an occurrence. 2 times is a coincidence. 3 is a pattern. In the way that a lot of you guys will try to sit there, use whataboutisms, and just flat out know for a fact Trump is in the wrong, just because you were so angry at the left, is only giving more credence and fire for the left to take action in the way that they do.
Yep.
And as somebody that is a conservative that wants more people to come to a conservative base, to hold the values that America has and how great this nation is, it's okay to like take your ego out and say, yeah, Trump was wrong in this. I have no problem admitting it to people. Yep. Now, 5 months ago, I would have been like, nah, you're lying, whatever. Trump wouldn't do this. Like I would make every excuse underneath the book. But it's okay to say, yeah, he was wrong. It's okay to praise him. Like there's no can be like, I told you so when he does do something right. It's just called being American. It's called holding your leader accountable. And that's all that we should be doing as Americans is really our duty is to each other. It's not to a politician.
That's it. We need to identify as Americans. That's a lost art that I'm just noticing. I went live on TikTok yesterday, And I keep my statements pretty general on the backdrop. And there was this man who was a Trump supporter. He could not engage in conversation with me until he found out who I supported. I thought, that is odd. Why do you need to know who I voted for? This is like you asking me, I need to know if you took the jibby jab in order for me to sit next to you.
Yep.
Why do you need to know that? Well, because I need to know how to talk to you. You talk to me like a normal human. Like, what do you mean? Just
Talk to me like an American.
That's it. But it's a lost art, guys. And I'm hoping episodes like this, if you guys want to join us on TikTok, I'm going to be up there not long because I've been sitting here for almost an hour. If you guys want to join us on TikTok, I want people who enjoy the more intellectual conversations from me, just come observe. Come observe and see exactly what I'm talking about. There are times that I will start a live and say, this is going to happen, and this will happen. And it's not even like I'm setting this up. I don't pay any of these people to come on and crash out. They crash out. They crash out.
It's a whole different ball game over on TikTok. It's like it's a breeding ground of just like I feel like a lot of people need to go to therapy is probably the best way to put it, because that happened to me the other day, and in fact it was on your live too, and you had to stop me. You're like, don't say who you voted for, because you knew I was gonna say that I voted for Trump, but you were like, no, don't give him that sort of acknowledgement. Just talk to him and see if he will respond like an American with a concern. It shouldn't matter who I voted for. You shouldn't like run around it.
What does it matter? Like, is that going to change the way you look at what he's saying? I get the confirmation bias because that's just how people are wired. But if I did or didn't vote for Trump, is my criticism valid? Is it false? Can you disprove it? You could get up and call me names all you want. What did you vote for? Why?
Why? What does
that
matter?
You don't want to tell me because you voted for a Democrat. Like, that's like, I know you are, but what am I? Like, what?
Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And there's so much more that I know we're running a little bit over, but there's so much more we didn't cover, like the actual allegiance to this country, because a lot of people are still going to say, like, well, they're our greatest ally. You know, we didn't cover Operation Clean Break. We haven't gotten to scratch the surface about how we literally had, or Israel had intelligence leading up to 9/11, decided not to share it with us, then give us false information about Afghanistan and Iraq, and us going over there was nothing there, and yet we knew for a fact that it was Saudi nationals.
We took out Saddam Hussein, y'all. We'll get into Operation Clean Break. I'm going to be live every Sunday. If you want to join the panel discussions, all you got to do is say, hey, I want to be on this episode. I'm going to get into Operation Clean Break. I'm going to go down the timeline so people can really understand. This is why I am not a pro-Israel American. And me being anti-Israel does not make me anti-American. In fact, it makes me more American to recognize that we are being infiltrated from within. And this country, before we know it, is going to be, it already is, a conduit for globalism. We have the 17 SGD goals. If you've been watching me for years, I talked about that. That's already being taught to your kids in school. My son was in 5th grade, and almost everything he learned centered around social studies and history aligned with NATO. Why are we teaching our children that in America? American history is all they need. We don't need to learn about, well, how do we come together as global citizens? There is no such thing, okay?
It will never be such thing.
It's just not, and we need to reject that full send. And when you see it, you identify it, you call it out. That's it.
Yep.
What do you want to say before we hop off here, man?
I want to thank you for introducing me to the YouTube live world. This was a breath of fresh air and really kind of empowering. I'm gonna be completely honest, Suni, and it feels like I'm just talking as an American, like conservatism aside, Trump voter aside, every sort of label underneath the sun that comes with the right. I just feel like we need to have conversations with Americans as Americans. Like, yes, you're going to have crazy leftists. You're going to have crazy liberals that you talk to. You're going to have crazy extreme far right people you talk to. But at the end of the day, can we just sit down and talk as Americans? Can we just say, hey, the best policy for us is X? Or can we say, I could compromise here because, I am grounded in my principles. I talk to a lot of liberals and we agree on a lot of things more than we disagree. And when we do disagree, it's fine. We keep it pushing and we move on. And this is what we need to bring back to America. Almost this kind of like 3-4 year gap of post 9/11, minus all the xenophobia. Definitely minus all that. But just like us looking at each other and being like,
my God. We was definitely racist against the Arabs.
it was bad. It was definitely bad. Listen, you would go on the plane and you would see somebody with a head wrap and you'd be like, I'm going to do a few more Hail Marys today. I want to get off. I want a refund. Like, it was bad. It was 100% bad. And we've since realized and recognized how bad that was. And we should not do that again. But we need to have that same level of acknowledgement of one another and just being like, hey, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. Or if you are, just like take those hats and those labels aside and say, I'm an American.
Yeah.
This is what I believe. This is how grounded I am. These are what my principles are. And I hope that, me sticking to these doesn't make me any less of an American. And I think one last thing that you said was you're not a pro-Israel American. If nobody caught that and you didn't get an itch from the fact that we have a lot of pro-Israel Americans, you need to go in the mirror and just look at yourself and say, hey, what do I truly believe in? And I'll end off there.
And there are people swaying our way. It's not that I want Americans to have a negative view of Israel. I want them to have a realistic view. And a lot of it's negative. And we can't get away from that. Just like slavery happened in this country, big whoop. Like, we can't get away from it. It happened. We can't continue to censor people, tell people that they're anti-Semitic, try to shut down their speech. We can't continue to do that. And you shouldn't be doing that if you do identify as MAGA. If you are sticking around, still listening to me, I hope that you take all of what I said and research it yourself. You don't have to believe anything that I said here today. It is easily verifiable online. I personally don't get online and speak to anything that I have not researched. I don't do that. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. So make sure you guys if you're watching on Facebook, please share this to all your other pages. If you're just now joining, I see a few people just hopped in here. What's up, Jax? Jacinia, I don't know how long you've been watching, but for everybody who has been here, if you missed it, you want to go back and watch it, it'll be posted right after we end the live. If you are interested in seeing some of the things that we talk about play out, I'm going to be on TikTok for a little bit. I would encourage you to come over there and check it out. It's something that you just have to kind of be there for to understand exactly what I'm saying. And yes, these people are headstrong. Yes, they're ridiculous, and I know that. But these are the people with the microphone, unfortunately. I'm going to liken them to BLM. I said it. I'm standing on business about it. It is what it is.
Listen, you know how we say like there should be literacy tests reinstalled before you can be able to vote? I think at like Best Buy, Target, Amazon, before you can buy a microphone, you need to take some sort of test or fill out an application before you purchase a microphone. There's a lot of people that have platforms that just should not be speaking.
Don't deserve it.
No.
You guys are dangerous. But I don't want to censor you because I'm a real American.
Same.
And you should have the right to say whatever stupid thought you have.
Well, we all have that kind of like authoritarian portion of our brain that creeps out. Like, I just had mine creep out a little bit, but of course I don't want to censor you. No, I wouldn't dare think of that possibly, but
Tell everybody where they can find you so they can follow you.
So
content.
You can follow me on Instagram, Slayer Syndicate, on TikTok, Slayer Syndicate HQ, and on Twitter at Slayer Syndicate as well. I should be starting to post new videos. Oh, and YouTube, Slayer Syndicate HQ. So I'll be posting videos very shortly. You'll be able to see more of my takes. I focus a lot on the economy. I'm also a heavy carnivore. I'm like Sunni. And that is full digs at Sudi for that. But
they know all about my antics.
Listen, y'all, you haven't heard some of these wild recipes just yet, but I promise if they are good, I will come on live. I will let Suni play a song that you just play whenever somebody says something crazy and they're just wrong and you just can't help them. I'll let her like publicly embarrass me. if these tofu recipes are good. But aside from all that, you can definitely find me on those platforms.
Thank you so much for joining the discussion today. Like I said, please go back and watch this episode in its entirety. There's a lot of information here. And I will continue to come back every Sunday. I do go live daily on TikTok. You can hear some of these things I talk about. It's been cool rocking with y'all. It's actually nice to be back. I've been gone for way too long. It's nice to be back. I love you guys. We're out.
Everything.
When you're done getting drunk and you're sober, where you going when the party's over?